Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much, all of you, for coming over for this press conference at a very short notice. Mainly, we will focus on two issues. The first one relates to the Yes Bank, where, as you know, the reconstruction plan has already been notified by the Government of India. And the second issue we will deal with is certain aspects related to the fallout of the coronavirus, the fallout of it in India and its impact on the Indian economy. With regard to the Yes Bank, you would recall earlier that I had stated on Friday, which is 6th of March, that is the one day after the moratorium was announced, that the RBI will come out with a scheme very swiftly and very quickly. And as you would have seen, swift action has been taken by the Reserve Bank of India and by the government. There has been very active coordination between the Government of India, the Finance Ministry, and the Reserve Bank. If I can just recapitulate the dates, the moratorium was announced on Thursday, 5th of March. The very next day, 6th of March, the draft scheme was put out in the public domain, and the final scheme was notified again on the next Friday. That is, between Friday and the next Friday, on 13th of March, the final scheme, the final reconstruction scheme, has been notified by the Government of India. The lifting of moratorium is taking place after 3 working days of putting the final scheme in, after notification of the final scheme, and that will be on Wednesday, 18th March at 6 p.m. The moratorium gets lifted. And the new board, as you would be aware from the notification, the new board will assume its position, and the office of the administrator will cease to exist on 26th of March. So as you can see, this has been a very swift and fast action, perhaps a record of a sort. With regard to the restructuring scheme which has been notified by the government, I would like to say that it is a very credible and sustainable restructuring plan. We do believe it is credible and it will sustain in the years to come. It is also an instance, perhaps the first of its type, it is also an instance of public-private partnership for revival of a private sector bank. Apart from the State Bank of India, you have leading private sector banks which are major stakeholders in the banking sector, both the public sector segment led by the State Bank of India and major private sector players, major private sector banks have joined hands to revive the Yes Bank and to take the restructuring scheme forward. In that way also, it is perhaps the first of its type. And in India, on earlier occasions, whenever there was failure of a scheduled commercial bank, the usual method has been amalgamation of the failed bank with a larger entity. This time we have not done so. This time the identity of the Yes Bank, the bank which is in difficulty, the identity of that bank is retained, and the investors are the banks which have come forward. So the participation of private sector banks in particular demonstrates the confidence of major players in the banking sector in the revival plan. So that is, therefore, in this background, I would like to state a point which I have said earlier, which we had told in our press note also earlier, that the depositors' money is absolutely safe. I would take this opportunity through you to convey to all the depositors of Yes Bank that their money, their deposits with the Yes Bank are completely safe, and there is no reason for any undue worry, or there is no need for rushing into withdrawing their deposits or their money which is with the Yes Bank. Their money is safe. In India, if you go by history, never in the banking history of India, in a scheduled commercial bank, the depositors have never lost money. Their interests have always been protected. The present scheme also protects the interest of the depositors. So I once again reiterate that the depositors need not worry. Their money is safe after 6 p.m. on Wednesday, which is 18th of March. They can draw their money, but there is absolutely no reason for them, no need for them to go for panic withdrawal or for getting unduly worried. Their money continues to be safe. I'm again and again saying this because this is very important, and the whole scheme, the underlying theme, the main point on which the scheme is based on is to protect the interest of the depositors. And I also would like to say that two more points, especially in the light of action by certain authorities, especially at the state level, to taking decision to withdraw money from private sector banks. The Reserve Bank of India, from RBI, we have written to all state governments, impressing upon them that the Indian banking sector is sound and safe, and Indian banking sector includes the private sector banks. We have specifically indicated that the health of the banking sector, including the private banking sector, is sound and safe, and therefore there is no reason for state government authorities to withdraw deposits or to take deposits or to keep away from the private sector banks. Private sector banks are an important component of our banking sector, and therefore it would be necessary that in the interest of financial stability, in the interest of banking stability, that the various authorities, both at the central and at the state government level, they continue their confidence on the private sector banks. I'm also happy to note that during all these months, when there were stories about Yes Bank having increasing difficulty, large number of depositors of Yes Bank have remained loyal, and they are still with the Yes Bank. I do expect and appeal to them to continue their confidence and loyalty to the Yes Bank. And you have the big names of Indian banking sector which are there participating in the revival plan for revival of the Yes Bank. And we have also, I think the one next point I would like to mention is that the Yes Bank, has enough liquidity to meet any requirement. If, I repeat, if there is a requirement, the Reserve Bank will provide necessary liquidity support to Yes Bank to meet its requirements if such a requirement arises. So that is a comforting factor for the depositors, that the Reserve Bank will support the Yes Bank with liquidities if it is required. And we are quite, at this point of time, our interaction with the investing banks, the state bank and the other private sector banks, our interaction with them gives us the confidence that the revival of Yes Bank will work out. It's a sound revival plan and it's a robust revival plan. So before I conclude this part relating to Yes Bank, I would again reiterate the depositors to remain confident that their money is safe.